Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Matthew back with Watty's channel. Yes, we are returning to the My Favorite Tag Team Tournament. We are still in round two. This is Group C with the Galoobs. Now, Group C, we only had six winners from round one. So, we're only looking at three winners for this video. So, we're only looking at one video for the Galoobs. And of course, when we move on to Group D with the Remcos, again, just one video. And then we're going to return to the LJNs for round three. Now, once we do hit round three, then I'm going to start combining all of the groups into one. So we're not going to continue the whole breakdown group by group. And I think it's only going to go about 4 rounds. 5 rounds probably will take you to the finals or so. So it's not going to be like super long after that. But here is the breakdown from round 1. So in the first round, the Sid and Barry U.S. version defeated the tandem of Rick and Arn, the U.S. version. So one set of the 4 Horsemen defeated the other set of 4 Horsemen. The Freebirds defeated the U.S. Steiner Brothers, and the Dudes with Attitude, a.k.a. Lex Luger and Sting, the UK exclusives, defeated the U.S. versions. And then in the next video, the UK version of Sid and Barry defeated Brian Pillman and Tom Zank. Sting and Luger, this one, both figures with entrance gear, defeated the UK exclusive of the Steiner Brothers. And then finally, the UK version of Rick and Arn defeated Doom. So, again, 6 tag teams, 3 matchups. Should be a very quick video. I don't envision this being anything super long or whatnot. So, let's dive in with the first matchup, which is going to feature the Freebirds. And they are going to do battle against the Sting and Luger entrance gear. Freebirds. So right off the bat, we've got an absolutely amazing first battle. Now, these are one of those matchups that I don't want to be doing super early in this tournament. Why? Because when it comes to a tag team tournament like this, or any kind of tournament like this, you want your best figures for it, right? So when you have to eliminate your best figures right in the first couple rounds, it sucks. You want the best figures to move forward immediately. But when I decided to start doing these competitions by random drawing, it made it fun because you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know who was going to be doing battle against who. But it also makes it difficult because, that unknowing really makes it difficult to kind of wrap your mind around who you would select. Basically plan for the future, essentially. And I've said it before. I never know who I'm going to choose until I actually come down here and make these videos. 1,000 times over, I might look at a figure and say, yeah, that's a shoe-in. And I come down and do a complete 180. Right off the bat, I think that the Freebirds with Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin are incredible pieces. Are they the best, play pose-wise? For Galoob, I would say yes. As far as what you would grow up with like Hasbro and even Remco. I mean, Remco might be all the same body types and whatnot, but you can't deny that they are at least playable figures, every last one of them. I don't like the way that a lot of the Series 2 figures in particular, mimic a lot of like Series 1 in like the Rick Steiner and Ric Flair, etc. A lot of the figures kind of have like these little hunch over bodies. Dustin Rhodes and Jimmy Garvin and just so many of these characters in Series 2 have these hunched over bodies. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's a workable figure. You can definitely do all the things you want to. You always sit there kind of have like these little power slam when you want to play with these. So it is a lot of fun, no doubt. And they are gorgeous looking figures. Michael Hayes, you can still do clotheslines, he gives you a little bit better of that little body slam pose than you would think when you get like a Tom Zank would be a comparable figure with the arm up, but Tom Zank's arm's a little bit more closed off, so a much better playable figure. And the design of the pants overall for these figures, outstanding. Good looking figures. For Galoob, great poses. Maybe not the best poses when you consider other toy lines and whatnot, but for this particular line, they're definitely among the best of the best. Now, the entrance gear figures of Dudes with Attitude, once again, maybe not the best play poses that you would ever find, but you have two figures right off the bat that are very comparable. Okay, they're just essentially mirror figures, which is great. And I talked about Lex Luger kind of being like that LJN Ultimate Warrior type figure. Anyways, Ultimate Warrior has that right arm up with the left arm out somewhat. So Michael Hayes is probably more closely resembles Warrior in that sense, but I mean still, it's just a mirror figure for the most part. Very playable, a million years better than that King Kong Bundy LJN style pose you get from the Blue Trunks Series 1 Luger or the Green Trunks Series 2 repaint from the exclusive. The entrance gear, probably a top 5 figure. When you take not only the pose, but of course the overall look and design of the figure. Now there's a lot of unreleased Series 3 Galoob figures out there, or not a lot, but there's probably one or two sellers who actually have, I don't know if they're like made out of resin or maybe somebody purchased the prototypes or whatnot, but I mean they do cost a fortune. But you can find some folks that have created some of the Series 3 unreleased prototypes, and you are going to find a couple more like Ric Flair with entrance robe and stuff like that, which I think is pretty spectacular. But one of my favorite figures, and I've constantly talked about the Denver Moore Hasbro custom, where he utilized a Hasbro figure to create, your Series 2 UK exclusive of Sting. Again, not the best pose. I do not like this pose at all, but the overall design and look of the figure is what I think is going to keep this particular figure and what Sting, when it comes to WCW, Sting, hands down, my all-time favorite WCW wrestler. There's not even a question. And not even just, by... He brings a high energy like the Ultimate Warrior. The fact that they actually tag teamed together, prior to the Warrior joining WWF was pretty awesome. Similar face paint, their enthusiasm and in-ring, antics mesh beautifully well together. I just wish I got the opportunity to actually watch them, do battle together, because I think that would have been pretty spectacular. But Sting, to me, the greatest. To me, Sting is your Hulk Hogan of WCW, no doubt. You could be all about Ric Flair and all that, but no, Sting was your superstar. Great figure, even with the bad pose. One of the best. A character I actually know and covet above all else. I really don't have any history with the Freebirds. They are great figures. I do think that the overall enclosure with the actual attire does put these figures over the top. And like I said, the poses, they're not bad. They're doable. So yes, Dudes with Attitude with entrance gear are going to surpass the Freebirds for this first matchup and move on to round 3. And are they potential, finalists? Well, maybe not finalists, but like last 8, last 10 standing. With these particular figures, I think so. Now, with all of the different lines meshing into one in the next video or in the next round, they could go off against. I've talked about the Bret Hart and Anvil figure. So, they could eliminate them potentially. Or they could eliminate the Hart Foundation. You just never know. This sucks. I didn't want to get rid of these guys so early. I didn't think they would win. I thought they would come close, but this hurts to lose a good team, a good set of figures so early. So, Dudes with Attitude defeat Freebirds. Next matchup is going to feature the US version Alright, it's going to feature the US version of Four Horsemen, or one set of them, with Sid and Barry, as they square off against the Sting and Luger UK version. Now, this is non-entrance gear figures. So this is their in-ring gear. To me, this is like one of those matchups that I've talked about in the past where it's kind of like, you know, you don't even have to talk about it. You know, the second you bring the figures up to the camera, it's hands down, not even a question. You know who the winner is. You don't even have to talk about it. But, you know, I don't want this to be no 11, 12-minute video. I'm going to try and push it to 15, 20 minutes if I can. So, I've already mentioned having the Blue Trunks Lex Luger as a kid, you know, from Series 1. It's a figure like Ron Simmons I played with as a kid, but it's one of the worst action figures ever constructed. I think Ron Simmons from Galoobs might be worse than the Rick Rude LJN. I think Lex Luger might actually just be just behind him. One of the worst action figures ever created. I despise the figure. And, you know, Lex Luger himself, you know, I'm not a huge fan, but I mean, and he's nobody I hated. I mean, he was an okay wrestler, someone I kind of liked, you know. It's just a bad pose. And I just don't know what else you could do with this. I think with the Bundy figure, because everybody knows I absolutely love the King Kong Bundy LJN figure. I think it's because it's an 8-inch figure. It's larger, so it makes it a little bit easier and more fun to play with if you want to. And because he's rubber, at least you can move the hands a little bit, do some things with it. But with a hard plastic or hardened rubber, whatever this stuff is made out of, I always called it plastic, but I didn't know if that's actually what the material is made of. But you really, it's an unplayable figure. And Sting, I love the Series 2 UK exclusive with the black pants more than the Series 1 salmon pants / pink pants, orange pants, whatever you want to call them, or the blue pants variant. But to me, the Sting with the arms up like this, again, another one of the worst figures of the Galoob line. I hate this figure. It's terrible. Brian Pillman with the same pose is good. I had the Brian Pillman figure with the hands open. It was a playable figure. I enjoyed it. This, a very similar figure, but just not as great. Don't like it. And then what are you going up against? Sid Vicious, which I've classified as my all-time favorite figure pretty much my entire life. Because of the pose, I use this figure more than any other figure growing up. And when I talked about, you know, doing my wrestling matches, what were always the figures I always talked about? You know, Sid Vicious was always number one. And then from Hasbro, you know, the Bret Hart and Undertaker from Series 4. Oddly enough, non-wrestling figures were some of the more common figures that I used because they were just more enjoyable. I talked about the Harry and Henderson rubber figure, or I talked about the, what's his name, Panthro, I think his name is, from Thundercats. You know, that figure was always really enjoyable to wrestle with. So, but this always had my favorite pose. And then when I started collecting LJNs and I saw the Big John stud, I'm like, oh man, that is awesome. And of course, this, you know, came out 5 or 6 years after Big John stud. So it's not like, you know, Big John stud was copying this. But from my point of view, as I mentioned, I didn't have LJNs as a kid. So to me, LJN is like 2 years old. Because that's, you know, my familiarity with the toy line. So And that's why I really love the line, is because it might be old for other people, but it's still fresh and new for me. So I really get to really love and appreciate it from a brand new perspective. And a character and a figure that I never knew about until a few years ago when I started getting into these Galoobs. Even though I didn't go like the Galoob line, growing up, Galoob was always like number two favorite toy line, but that was because they were like my default number two. You know, I had Hasbro, I had Galoobs, and what else did I have? That was it. So didn't really have anything else to fall back on. Nowadays, I say Galoob are like 5, 6, 7 favorite toy line. But another absolutely perfect figure. You don't have to talk about these. We already know. All day, every day, Sid Vicious and Barry are just absolutely trumping the competition throughout this whole tournament. And these guys, they just had no chance. I think the only reason they won, the only reason they were able to advance, is because these same exact figures squared off against their U.S. counterparts in the first round. All right, so that leaves the UK exclusive of Four Horsemen, the main Four Horsemen of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, going up against the Barry and Sid UK. So once again, we kind of run into the same ordeal here. Two perfect figures. We just talked about them. We really don't have too much more to say. The one thing that I will add with these figures, because UK exclusive, obviously much more rare, only released in London, any of those basically. You're gonna pay up for these type of figures, whereas if you were to find the United States, yeah, you're not gonna be, I gotta stop saying that because that's not always the case. I've talked about like this figure as an example. I try to have a lot of my UK exclusives I try to sell, and I don't really sell them that often. But when I first got into buying all the UK figures, obviously I was purchasing them from UK sellers. And I was paying like $200 or $125 for a single figure. Having to pay like $125 for a UK Ron Simmons, I mean, that is the one thing that absolutely kills me every day. And there are US sellers who sell the UK Ron Simmons for like $60 and stuff. So I mean, those are some of those things that you just wish you kind of held back on. But the UK exclusives still great. I really love the UK versions much better. The Ric Flair, some folks hate on this because they don't like the red or the lightning bolt. To me, I really love it. I mean, it just adds more detail and more design to a figure. It doesn't give that simple blue. Regardless of whether or not he wore it, who cares? Me personally, yeah, I'm a stickler. I love figures when they're taken after what a character wore in the ring. That's awesome, but I'm not really gonna fret over this. It's a brand new color scheme, whole new figure. It's great. With UK Arn Anderson, I like better. I like the US version better because at least with the US version, he had white on the back, so you did have that multicolor scheme, which I like better than the simple straight red. I never had Arn Anderson. Really didn't know much about this guy. Brainbusters, late '80s, with who was it? Tully Blanchard. But the figure is mediocre, below average figure. Ric Flair, again, one of my favorite figures from childhood among the Galoob line. Very playable figure. Still a below average figure, not that great. Among all of the Ric Flair figures, is this one of the best? Maybe. I mean, if you compare it to Hasbro, sure. But, I mean, I kind of like even though it's a very simple figure, I kind of like the Remco Ric Flair better. And, again, it's a very simple figure with a He-Man body, just like any other Remco. But enough of that. No doubt here. Come on, it's not even a question. Among the Four Horsemen, the tandem of Barry and Sid are gonna sweep the floor once again. It's not. It's just these guys had no chance. I kind of said it before that the only figures that I really think that have a legitimate chance at defeating Sid and Barry are going to be another Sid and Barry tag team, and unless the UK version squares off against the US version, I just don't see how one of these other tag teams can really beat them. I mean, the entrance gear, dudes with attitude, maybe. It's possible. I really like the poses are adequate, especially for Luger. I really love the design of the figures, maybe. And, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Alright, so in the next video, we're doing the Group D Remcos, Fabulous Freebirds, the High Flyers, and Legion of Doom. So I'll either eliminate one tag team or I'll eliminate two tag teams. I'm only going to do one matchup. I'm not going to yeah, I'm only going to do one matchup. So it's only three tag teams. So I'm going to look over my chart and see how many numbers I have left. If I can eliminate one tag team and create an even number of tag teams remaining, then I'll only eliminate one tag team. If I have an even number after eliminating two, we'll eliminate two. Just looking at that, I'm not really sure who I want to eliminate. There are two really good tag teams I really like out of there. A third one with a strong chance of moving forward based on some of their designs. But again, I won't know until I actually make the video. So I'm going to do that next, and from there, we shall see. Well, thank you for watching, everybody, and I will talk to you in the comments and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.